So, are you aware of how much it costs to adopt a child in the US? For those of you considering infant adoption, just know that you could end up paying anywhere between $15,000 and $50,000. And if you're anything like we were when we were first starting to look into the adoption world, you might be interested in international adoption. But I hate to break it to you, that price tag can be anywhere between $30,000 and $80,000. I don't know about you, but I do not have that type of money lying around, and I'm guessing most of you do not either. It's easy to see why so many people think adoption is impossible for them because it's such a huge cost. But what if I told you that there was a way that you could adopt a child into your family for free, no cost whatsoever? Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Katie, and I'm an adoption consultant and a mom to 3 awesome kids who my husband and I adopted from foster care. And if you're a regular around here, welcome back. And hey, could you do me a little favor? If you are not subscribed yet, could you go ahead and click that button for me? A huge portion of my audience watches regularly, but is not actually subscribed, and I would hate for you to miss out on my weekly content with all of these adoption tips. Not to mention that subscribing is one of the best and easiest ways you can support my channel, and I appreciate you so much for doing that. Okay, so how can you adopt for free? That's right, free 99, not even 99, just free. How can that be possible with those staggering adoption cost statistics I gave you at the beginning of this video? Well, let me explain. Here's the thing. I only mentioned domestic infant adoption and international adoption. But there's a whole other type of adoption that we haven't considered yet, and that is adopting a child from the US foster care system. And when you adopt from the US foster care system, it is far more affordable and oftentimes even 100% free. Now, when you hear me mention foster care, you might start to worry, your ears kind of turn off, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't really feel cut out to be a foster parent. There's a lot of uncertainty in being a foster parent, kids in and out of your home. I'm not sure that I can handle that. Don't worry, let me explain. Because if that's you, I actually don't recommend doing foster care hoping that it will end up in adoption. And you can catch my video from last week where I go into the whole reason why, but the gist of it is this. Foster care, the goal of foster care is to reunify kids with their bio parents. This means that most children in foster care will eventually return to their biological parents once their parents meet their case plan and can prove that they're a safe and stable home for their children to live in. However, there is a way to adopt waiting children in foster care. And what this means is that the child is already legally free for adoption and they are just waiting to find a forever adoptive family. There are estimated at any given time to be around 400,000 kids in the US foster care system, and 100,000 of those kids are waiting to be adopted. What this means is that it is no longer in that child's best interest to reunify with their biological parents due to safety concerns or concerns for their well-being in general. And so now they are ready to be adopted. And while foster parents do have the option typically to adopt a child, and there are many cases where the foster family that child is currently with will decide to adopt that child, but that's not always the case. There are a lot of reasons why this can be, but many times there are foster parents who just truly want to be foster parents. And so here's the thing, in many states, adoption from foster care in general, but even adopting waiting children from foster care is completely free. Not only is it free, but it can also come with a lot of great financial help for you as the adoptive family as well to help care for your kid. It's very common that your child will have Medicaid available to them until they are 18 or even in some cases 21. There is typically an adoption subsidy, which is an amount of money per month that the government will provide you to help you care for this child, again, usually until they're 18 or in some cases 21. If you're truly blessed, then you will live in one of the states where that state provides free college tuition for any kid who is adopted from foster care, which is incredible if you are in one of those states. And this is something that surprised me so much. But, before you adopt from foster care, you have to go ahead and do these foster care training classes to become trauma informed and understand things about different ways to parent your kids and what to expect and some safety classes. there are situations, and ours was one of these, and it shocked me, where you can actually be paid for the time you are in those classes. That blew my mind. Even when we signed the contract, said we were going to sign on with this one agency, I had no clue we were going to get reimbursed basically for taking those classes, which was odd because I wanted to take them, but that can be a nice financial benefit if you're worried about just expenses in terms of adopting. And here's the thing, not every state will offer completely free adoption. And typically if it is free, it's because it's through the state or county agency, not through a private agency, which you'll have the option to use in many situations. But even if it's not free, it's usually way more affordable than any of the other options I mentioned at the beginning of this video. As an adoption consultant who helps families do this very specific type of adoption, I find agencies all the time for people, and even with private agencies, the typical fee I would see is around $5,000. And, there are some that were a little above that. I think the highest I have ever seen was about $8,000, and I believe that was near Chicago, Illinois. So it really depends where you live, but in many cases, you can adopt for free through the state, or you can at least have a lower cost to work with a private agency, which is what we did. And that's why I know so much about this, because we adopted all 3 of our kids this way. They were all waiting children who we adopted from foster care. And we knew we wanted to adopt for years. And we almost gave up because we just didn't know how we were going to afford adoption. I mean, I am a teacher. My husband was in grad school and is now a pastor. And we just didn't know how would we be able to adopt without going into massive debt or fundraising for years to try to make it happen. And it was just something we weren't really willing to do. So you could adopt for free, or at least for a much more affordable rate, and provide a home for some of the kids who are in really vulnerable situations and truly need a forever family to call their own. To me, that's a win-win. Now, to be completely clear with you, I want you to understand that it is not likely that you would be able to adopt an infant or even a toddler if you adopt from foster care. However, I can't say it's impossible because I do know of situations where it's happened. In fact, my youngest daughter, who was our first adoption from foster care, she was only 18 months when she moved in with us. That is not very old, and that's also, though, not very common. But again, I've talked with other families who've had similar experiences to ours. So I don't want to discourage you completely, but I want you to kind of open up your mindset to say, okay, if I'm going into this type of adoption, I may need to consider expanding my age range slightly. The biggest need there is for kids who are 8 years old and up, kids who are a part of sibling pairs or sibling groups, or kids with special needs. Now, I want to address something. There is this false and very dangerous belief that any kids who are waiting to be adopted have been passed over because there's something wrong with them. And this is not true. There can be so many reasons why a child is waiting to be adopted. Here's the thing, some families are truly only interested in fostering. They want to leave space in their home for kids who need a temporary placement so that they can eventually be reunified with their biological families. And if these families who are foster parents just choose to adopt every child that comes in their home, well, pretty soon their home's going to be shut down as a foster home because they won't have the time, resources, or energy to continue providing a safe, temporary home for these kids. So there are foster families that is their true goal. They're not in it hoping to adopt. Another thing is that some foster parents are older and they just don't think that it would be wise for them to adopt a really young kid if they are in their 70s, 80s. And I say that from experience, not because I'm 70 or 80, but because my children's foster parents were both in their 70s and 80s. And so that is the reason why my children were waiting children. There was nothing horribly wrong with them. They didn't have all these major issues, but their foster parents were like, hey, we love them so much. I wish I could keep them with me forever, but I just know it's not in their best interest. And I think that is one of the most loving and selfless things that you can do is to just recognize that as much as you love these kids, that they may need a different type of home as a permanent family. And I am forever grateful to our kids' foster moms for that. And we still maintain contact with them, and our kids love them and they love our kids. And so just know that it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the kid. Another situation where this might happen is sometimes there are sibling groups who ultimately they want to end up together in an adoptive home, but they were not able to find the space in a foster home where all of them could be together. And so while that family that is currently fostering them has room for one of the kids, they may not have physical space in their home to adopt multiple children, and they don't want to disrupt to the foster placements they already have. So that can also be a reason, as they're trying to find a family who's willing to take siblings so that they can all be together in one home. And I just want to be honest here, in the worst case scenario, I know it happens. There are foster homes that are in it for the wrong reasons. They're in it to try to make money, which here's my thing. The money is to help pay and cover for basic necessities of your kids, to cover their clothing, their food, any school activities. Maybe if you're lucky, you could also pay for some sort of like sports or activity like that. But there are people who do abuse the system. So just know that there are a lot of reasons why a kid could have been quote unquote passed over for adoption, and it has nothing to do with them as a child, that there's nothing wrong with them in any way. They just are in a circumstance that isn't the best fit for them. Now, have these kids experienced difficult circumstances? Yes. Could there be varying levels of behaviors and triggers and trauma that these children exhibit? Also, yes. However, don't write off the idea of adopting a waiting child just because you think there might be something quote unquote wrong with them. Let's face it, there's something quote unquote wrong with all of us. We're all human. And if we had gone through the same things our kids went through, we would probably struggle in the same ways. What you need to do is when you walk into this process, you just need to know your boundaries, set appropriate boundaries of what you feel you can handle, and just be firm on those boundaries when you need to be. I'm just so passionate about connecting families to children who need them. And there's so many kids in the US foster care system who are just waiting for a home. Like I said, especially those older kids or kids in sibling groups or kids with special needs. And by no means do I want you to walk in blindly and just say, yeah, I'll take any kid, any situation. That's not what I'm saying, but I do think that you can make a huge impact on a child's life and at the same time fulfill your dream of adding to your family and welcoming a child in your home to love. And just a quick reminder, if you are someone who really wants to do this and you're like, yes, this is the type of adoption I want to pursue, I'm ready to save thousands of dollars of adoption fees and be able to adopt a really awesome kid and give them a better life, then I would love to work with you as your adoption consultant. Finding an agency can be really tricky. And so one thing that I do is I help families find agencies, and I also help answer all of their burning questions when it comes to adoption. So you can book a consultation with me at adoptinformed.com, and I will also include a link in the description. So check out that link, book a consultation with me today. Whether this is the very first time you've ever heard of this concept and you want to know more, or you are already sure this is the type of adoption you want to do and you just want to have someone help you get started, that's why I'm here. I've worked with clients from all over the country. I think I'm at least half of the states now, like 25 states at this point. Here's actually a testimonial from a client I recently worked with. So here's what Erin had to say about her recent consultation. My consultation with Katie was absolutely an invaluable experience. Not only did she walk me through the adoption process in great detail, but she gave me so much personal experience and advice. She is truly a wealth of knowledge when it comes to adopting from foster care. Her extensive research on agencies in our area will be a vital resource as we begin making contact with those agencies in the coming months. I could never have found all of that information on my own. Thank you. There are many other reviews from past clients I've had on my website as well if you want to check those out. It's such an honor to work with clients like Erin, and I would love to work with you as well. So definitely check out my consultation link below, and I hope that I get to meet you soon. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you next week.